Hey you guys, happy Monday, good morning, and welcome to Monday Mornings with Michael. Today is April 11th, 2022, and we are super excited to start out this new week. And if you didn't know, it is supposed to rain where I'm at, which is even more insane when you look at last week's temperatures, and it was 95, 96 degrees, and we were all in shorts, tank tops, basically living in a sauna. Well, it changed, and now we are headed into at least one day of some chilly weather and corn chowder for dinner tonight that I planned, which is always funny when you're having really hot weather and you're planning the next week's menu and you're like, okay, so it is very hot right now and we're going to be dying in a couple hours from the heat, but we are going to go ahead and plan chowder because it's supposed to rain today. So looking forward to that. We hope your weekend went well, that you had a lot of fun, but also a lot of time to relax, rest, and recoup from the past week. We know weeks can be super long and tiring, and you just try to get so much in there that by the time you get to the end of the week, you're just like exhausted and like, oh my gosh, I need this weekend. And is the weekend long enough to recoup and relax and have fun and also do all those little things that we really didn't actually get to during the week that we were supposed to? So we hope you did have some time to get a lot of that done. Yesterday I did a lot of cleaning, like deep cleaning in the kitchen. Even this morning when I was sleeping, I was like, oh, my wrist. And I'm like, how do house cleaners do that? Like people that do that for a job. Wow. Their wrists, their knees, their backs must be like superheroes. Or they need to be. I don't know. But just from one day of like heavy scrubbing of everything, I'm like, ooh, wow. But I did get to go rollerblading, which was fun. It ended up being very windy, so by the time I came back, I was like sniffling and tears, just like, I can't breathe, like what happened? I probably should not have gone, or have gone as long as I did. But regardless, it was fun, and if you didn't notice, do you see something different about me? My face. If you know me or have known me on my personal account for a while, then you'll know it's not a big deal. I go through like months of changing my appearance or my face, I guess you could say. But this is the first Monday Mornings with Michael where you are seeing my clean shaven face. So hooray. It's probably weird. Even now I'm still getting used to it. I'm like, gross. Who is that? But regardless of that, I mentioned last week, kind of as we left, our like takeaway or, go throughout this was like, take time to realize that it's okay to take a break on certain things. I mentioned the gym membership that I need to cancel. Guess what, you guys? I finally canceled it. I thought I should check back in with you and let you know, like, I actually did what I was suggesting, what we were suggesting. And that is the case with most things. So it's not like we're just throwing out random stuff. Typically, the stuff we talk about is stuff we've experienced in the last week and that we're actively pursuing. But that was one very practical way that for myself personally, I was like, it's not fitting in with my scheduling. It's not, it's just not working out right now. And I'm paying money for something I'm not using. And I mentioned that's the trap that a lot of gyms have, is they get you going. And funny with that too, I finally had time to make my way over to the gym that's near my house. I scootered there because I'm like, I don't want to walk. I got there and they're like, you made this membership at a different gym in Sunnyvale. You need to cancel it there. We can't help you. And I was like, of course, that's part of their tricks, their schemes. Or they're like, or you can call them. I'm like, oh, I don't want to call them. But there was a way to do it online, which I couldn't do. I would have done it online initially, but I didn't have the paperwork they said I needed to do it. So then I just asked those people, can you just tell me how to do it online? So they told me, and I went home and did it. So I didn't really even need to go in, but I did cancel it, so hooray for that. The other thing we took a break from was Fisher Philbrick Business. We mentioned that we were taking about like a 1 to 2 break from the podcast, but also kind of our normal routine of everything, just to focus on getting business owners set up to interview them, kind of getting them first to apply, then to hopefully the end goal is to interview them and feature them on this account for Fisher Philbrick Business. And it was actually a very nice break, and we're going into that this week, maybe next week, I don't know. Right now, we are really just kind of playing it by ear, seeing how things go. We did have one person apply last week that we mentioned. We sent them a lot of the next steps. We have yet to hear back, but we're following up with them today. It's very tricky what we're realizing is a lot of these small shops and small businesses on the weekends, they're going, especially now that it's spring, every weekend they're going to events. They have different locations they're headed to, and I've gone to a couple at a previous job I worked at of these like pop-up shops, craft fairs, and they are a ton of work. You prep like the whole week or at least a couple of days before, loading everything up, getting things going, and then you spend your whole day at your booth, and you typically can't leave. And a lot of these small business owners, it's just them, so they literally cannot leave their products and their stuff, or they'd have to get someone from the event to like watch their booth so they can use the restroom or get food. So it is a lot, and I think that is probably playing into, or will play into, maybe this first person that applied, and just keeping that in mind for these future people of like, okay, what is ways so that we can get them on and really ensure them, like, if you just like, once you get the information, if you see that it's going to be a good fit, just say yes, and we will take care of the rest, which that's already how it is set up to do. But in the application like details packet that we send them, it goes through like everything in full detail, which is very important and very good to have, especially if you think of it like, if you were going to do an interview, like, you don't want to just show up on an Instagram live and be like, what are we doing? What am I getting from this? What am I gaining from this? Like, what are you going to ask me? How does this work? All of those things are in the packet, but it means that you actually have to read the packet. And contrary to what I would think, a lot of people don't like to read. They don't like to take the time to work through things. That's initially why on our website we kind of like structured things down to make it a lot simpler to kind of read through. And there still is good content there, but it's not as in-depth as I would have liked, or as I would have if it was me being, a business that wanted to learn about what it was to be interviewed. But say they apply, then we send them a packet with all the details. So kind of somewhere within that, just our wording needs to be a little more like concise, of like, this is going to be a lot to read through. It's a quick read, but there is like words. There are words in there. But if it all looks good to you, then just let us know and we'll take care of the rest. So kind of like reassuring, like, it's really not a big deal. None of it is a big deal or really hard for them to do. It's literally like, we just need you to like give us confirmation, like, yes, you want to do it. Yes, this all sounds good. Take me, let's go. Okay. So that's what we're working on, and will be interesting this week too, in kind of seeing like who else we can get. There was another person interested, which is always super exciting, and then a few more people we can follow up with. So partly on our side, it's just like having the like not even bravery, but that like, okay, we need to just follow up. Okay, we need to like look for a couple new people to reach out to, because it does take some time, if they're not following you, for them to see your message, if they ever see. Some of the people we messaged likely still have not seen our message. So it's a mix of like, did they see it and they're not interested? Did they see it and forget to respond? Or maybe they just didn't see it at all. So that's what we've got going on that side of things. We are still posting, like today we'll plan out about like one post a day on the social media, just to keep things active and engaged. It is crazy for the podcast. We'll go into that. We didn't have the podcast last week, and we had no new listens, which is very interesting. Like, on one, yes, it's kind of sad, like no one went back and listened to it, or like if they missed things, but at the same time it is very helpful to show like, oh, all the new listens we were getting they weren't all on like each week's episode. That's why I think it was a bit confusing, because like we would have like a new episode and we'd get say like 10 to 15 listens in the first like 2 to 3 days, but then at the same time a bunch of other ones would get more listens. So you would think like, oh, if you stop it for like 1 week, those random other listens would still be there. That doesn't seem to be the case. So very good to test that out and to see. So we're still at $1.51 so far. And I guess we could learn from that is like, you really still have to keep pushing it. And that's what we're going to try to do this week, even though we're not coming out with new content on the podcast. Let's figure out fun ways, like maybe in the story, like, hey, did you check out this episode? This is what we talk about, or this is what we learned from it, or here's a cool tidbit from the episode. Not really sure if that will work, but we'll see. And maybe we'll let you know next Monday mornings with Michael how it went. So from there, though, the other reason we took a break was for our Fisher Philbrick Kids section, which we have announced like the last time. And then on our website, we added a new little blurb kind of saying like, in this quarter too, this is what we're going to be working on. Here's kind of what we're looking for. So you can check that out on our website. Instead of just the like coming soon, it has the coming soon, the description, and then a little like paragraph or two there. But it has been going great so far, and we've been making like slow but steady progress each day, which is really exciting. And we went from kind of being like, we're gonna have a whole group of characters, which we talked about, that idea of having like fun, lovable, and memorable characters to take with you as you go throughout the content we're going to be creating. So we had like character sketches, but it was really feeling like we have so many, and so many is like 5, 7, 8, 5 to 8, let's say. So really not that many. But when you have those many characters and you just have drawn them and you're like, I don't really know them. Like they have names because naming is typically fairly easy, but how do you start a project this big? This big being like the hopes, dreams, and visions we have for it is going to be really big. But we need to start smaller so we can get to know the characters to then build upon that. So that was something that as we were jumping into it, we were really kind of trying to figure out. We did narrow it down though to, I had just for fun created like this like mystical character, kind of a mashup of a couple of different characters, and I wasn't going to use it because it was more like made up, and I wanted to use animals that kids could see in the real world and relate to. But I don't know, I really felt like we needed one character to be like the main character, and then the rest will fill in with the kind of like supporting character roles. If you do theater, you can have a few main, but a lot of it is like the supporting characters that can come in, or your chorus ensemble. So I narrowed it down to it being okay having that one mystical creature. It is a made-up creature, but a big part of the Fisher Filbert Kids was playing on, your creativity, your imagination. So I'm like, I think it's actually very okay and like appropriate to have this, because we are pushing, like create, be imaginative, use your imagination, and like don't be afraid to come out with things that maybe don't make sense. And this creature, like you'd see it and you're like, it's cute, but what is it? I don't know. You tell us, type of a thing. But that is the fun, and I think that is most fun when I do art on my own anyways, is creating weird characters. So this one is a little less weird. It is more cute, I would say. And so we're going ahead with that character. And then if you, on my personal account, Marlon White, under my reels, you'll see one about a girl with soup, the little lady with a little ladle. I think we're gonna incorporate her too, which is really exciting as like the human character to kind of take us through these different characters and the journeys they're gonna go on. So that was a really cool realization of like, we already have like a really cute like little kid character, and she already has a song to go with her too. So that was just some fun within that, and kind of seeing like what we're gonna go throughout that with them. And right now within that, we are working on like their like intro story, the origin story, kind of like who are they, how did we get here, what kind of town is it, and let's set it up so that we can then go throughout. And I'm thinking right now, which all of this is learning as we go, so that is a really fun part of it, is that like we have the mystical character and the human character. They will meet up, become friends, whatever, and then they go on like a journey, or they go throughout making new friends. And these friends will be those other characters I have, and they will be most likely normal characters, creatures, animals that you would recognize. Although I drew a cat, and everyone I've showed it to so far says it looks like a lion. So I think I might tie that in and be like, are you a cat or a lion? I am a cat, type of a thing. So we'll see. I think that is probably the most fun, of like tying in jokes from real life, and that maybe will be the character saying like, where did this start from? It's like, really no one could understand what I was drawing. So now the character has to deal with that their whole life. Sad. But from there, I think the coolest thing that we found within this was when having to create this story, like I've done creative writing and some writing before, but not like fully jumping into it. I've learned that writing by hand can be really helpful. And this is, for a children's, likely what we're working on now is like an illustrated book. So it doesn't have to be super long. So writing it by hand is okay. It's not going to wear me out. But I'm not as much used to that compared to like typing, where I can just delete, go. So you really have to think while you're going, which is part of like the magic and the fun, because you're just writing, you're like, oh, let's roll with this, let's work with it. And you can always go back and edit later. But we came to find that songwriting was actually really helpful with creating like the characters, the world, the story, kind of everything in itself. I've done a lot of songwriting. That's what I enjoy the most, I think, out of a lot of the creative works. I've been doing a lot of art because that is just an easier medium to do, especially when the world was closed and I can do it silently. Songwriting and playing music is a loud thing. And I like to be loud, but when you're living with other people, you can't always do so. And so I found, though, that I was getting to where, I think with kids, one of the most fun things is music, singing, having songs, growing up with songs, loving these songs. And even as you get older, being like, yeah, I remember that song and let's sing it. Or I think Disney has done a really good job of, having songs with these characters that make them super memorable, and you just fall in love with the character, the world. You get to know a whole bunch about these characters just through song, which is a big musical theater thing too. If you can have these like character songs where the whole song is showing things about their character, who they are, so that as an audience, you really get to know them. And it's on a much different level than if you were just to read it, or if they were just to say it, or if you were just to show it. So that was something that we've already kind of created two little like clips of songs, or two songs that we hope to then also tie into this bigger picture of everything, to really like create the world in itself and just be excited about it, have more to put out with these characters. But I also have this strong feeling that, compared to other things I've done in the past, the songs are really going to bring them to life for the kids, for everyone, and really show like, oh, it's not just another doodle. It's not just a pin that you're trying to push on us or a sticker. It's like, this is a character and he is alive. He's mystical and made up, but he's alive. And this little lady with a little ladle, I think her name is going to be Petaluma Blossom. So she'll go by Petal. Spoiler. So instead of having to say little lady like that, Petal. But like, she'll, they have songs, they're real, they're breathing, like they're living in your imagination and your creativity, but they can come to life. And, as a little kid or even as a grown up, like you can sing the songs, and I think it is going to be so much fun. On the dog walking I do, instead of listening to other people's podcasts now, I'm using that to think through a lot of the songs, a lot of like, where do we go from here type of thing, and singing the songs, which is really cheesy. But I have the two songs, and I'm like, let's sing through this one. How does this sound? Should we add more? Should we not? But within that, because we're running low on time, we are now kind of looking for the pieces that will come together of like finding someone to do the background, like arranging, the editing, and the finalizing and the like mastering of the tracks, because I can come up with basic chords and like kind of a vision of what I want it to do, but I'm not gifted at putting it all together using music software program. I always say like, I could figure it out, but then when I get to it, it is so frustrating and I just waste so much time. So that is something I've learned of like finding someone else and utilizing their talents and stuff, their gifts that they're good at, will really help it all together. And then finding like, I think I do want to be in at least one of the songs, just because, I don't know, it's so exciting. But at least one, like a female singer to do one of the other ones for one of the girl songs. And I think I might have found someone, and I don't know, we'll have more info, because we're still far away. But to me, that is the most exciting of like planning. I love the planning, looking forward to the future. So I'm like, okay, this week we decided we're going to add on songs. So we need at least one singer to help us out, and then a musician to help put it all together. And I think that is exciting too, because we are going to do it as jobs so that we can pay them. Of course, we'll learn a lot about that as we go, whether, it's just paying them for the project, or if it's paying them a little less, but then adding them into the royalty side of things. In the past, when I've done stuff myself, I have just, gone with the fact like it's easier just to pay them and not give them royalty, because like, is it really going to hit anything big? Probably not. So take your money. Thank you for your help. Like, it has been more of like projects that I've done for fun that I wanted their help on, so I just paid them, and it's made a couple dollars here or there, but not a huge amount. But I have a feeling like this stuff, the more I work on it, I'm like, I can see this being big. Like, we're going to create a whole world of characters, songs. I think the songs are what have me the most excited. And then from there, all the other content we mentioned we'll just really grow and expand from there. So we'll see with that and how like the payment works. But another fun thing that we can learn of working with like freelance, in this case, musicians and singers as we go. But to close, we would say that throughout your day and your jobs or your different tasks is try to find or look for different ways of doing workarounds to get a job done, or different ways of doing something to make it more fun but also more productive. For us in this past week, it was the songwriting of we were writing, we're like, and then they hear, someone singing in the background, we're like, oh, let's go and write a song so that we know what they're going to be singing in the background, and then can incorporate that into the book of like we could put the lyrics, and then like it won't just be you like reading the lyrics like, oh, this stupid author put a song, but hey, we can go on Spotify and actually listen to the song, and then maybe if you can sing as the parent reading to your child, you at least have a tune that you can sing to them. But that was one thing that was a really fun and kind of unexpected way that in the world of creating, of like, no one would tell you like write a story, but hey, take a break and go write a song that you can then use to further the story and like bring clarity to what you're doing. So for us within Fisher Philbrook Kids, that's what we found. In real life, it could be anything from that of like, oh, I've got stuff to do, but it'll be so much more fun if I have music playing and can sing while doing it. Or I don't know, I think giving yourself like breaks and like rewards within that of like, I'm going to do this task for a couple hours, then I'm going to reward myself with candy or cereal or like watching a show, and then continue on to the next thing, and like really breaking up your time so that you can still have fun, even if your tasks are not fun, because a lot of life is not always fun. But if you can find ways to throw things in and do these workarounds where like, yeah, you're still going to have to do the work, but can you do it while having fun? Can you do it while still being productive? And a lot of times, if you're doing stuff that you like to do or that is fun to do, you will be even more productive than if you were doing it with a bad attitude or being pessimistic, which kind of brings us to that whole idea of it really is so helpful to be optimistic and just have a positive mindset throughout your day, throughout your week. So we're going to leave you with that, and we wish you the very best Monday that you could have. Maybe it's going to be raining where you're at. Up like north where I'm at, there's going to be snow. So I've already heard a lot of people are like, we're going to the snow, we're going to go ski and snowboard, which I think is good because I think a lot of schools are still on spring break or starting spring break. Who knows? I haven't been in school for a very long time, and I don't really go to the snow. But have a great week. We hope the upcoming days are awesome and that you have some time to be creative and let your imagination loose and just pour into some fun things that you enjoy to do with your hobbies or within your life. Have a great day and happy Monday.